A lot of the critics of religion today will say, well, isn't that nice? Religious people, they don't really know these things. They can't prove them scientifically. They have no good arguments for them. Rather, they're playing a kind of make-believe. I'll believe certain things on the basis of no evidence. That's not what believe means when serious Christians use the term. It does not mean accepting things wildly on the basis of no evidence. It's one of the most misunderstood words in the religious lexicon. Authentic belief is never infra-rational. What I mean is it's never below reason. It's always supra-rational. It's beyond reason and inclusive of it.
While I agree with what Bishop Barron said about faith, I think I can expand on that. And to do that, you need to know about two things: the intellect and the will. The two powers of the soul. With the intellect, you can comprehend what is outside of you. Within is a movement from the outside of you towards your soul. The will is the opposite of that. It's an image inside of you, like an image of an architect's plans that tries to manifest outside. It's a movement from your soul out. Looking at faith through the lens of the intellect is a bit like thinking something is true without having enough evidence for it. However, looking at faith through the lens of the will is a bit like doing something without having enough evidence for it. It's a bit like taking a risk. For example, I don't know where my wallet is. I lost it. I think it could be in my house somewhere, because every time I lost it, it was in my house, but I don't know. So if I say that it's in the house, it's a bit like having faith through the lens of your intellect. However, I go a bit beyond that. I don't just stop there. I say, okay, so because I have this knowledge that every time I lost it, it was in my house, even though I don't know where it actually is right now, I have the faith through the lens of the will that if I go and search the house, I will find it, so I go and do it. Now, this is different because this is not just knowing, it's actually taking action. Another very important thing to take into account is that people are not things. We cannot treat people and things in the same way. A thing is something deterministic. Because it's deterministic, you can calculate and predict what it's going to do next. You don't need any faith because you can just calculate it. However, this is not true with people, because people have free will that is fundamentally unpredictable. And because of this, we cannot calculate what a person is going to do. So the best thing we can do is that based on our experience of them, based on what we know about them from the past, we have to trust them. We must have faith in them. And by faith, I don't just mean think that they are going to do the right thing, but also act that way. That's why when you marry, you have to trust each other, because you cannot predict if your spouse will ever leave you or not. This is fundamentally impossible. So you have no choice but to trust them. And this kind of faith is the kind of faith that we have in God. Because God is not a thing, and not even just one person, but three persons. So we must have faith in all of them. This definition of faith is a far cry from the definition that the skeptics think we have. In conclusion, faith can be looked at through the lens of the intellect and through the lens of the will. And because a person is not the same as a thing, because a person has a free will that is fundamentally unpredictable, we have no choice to trust a person. And therefore the kind of faith that we have in God is better defined by trust than it is by blind faith.